As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
There's no crying in baseball!
I ate his liver with some fava beans. Nice cliente.
That was totally wicked!
If I can change, and you can change, everybody can change!
And welcome to another episode of Your Next Favorite Movie. I am your host, Josh G. Today we are continuing our best month ever as Ellie from Best Film Ever joins the show. Welcome.
Hello. Here I am, all the way from the UK.
There you go. So, in case someone's just decided to drop in on this episode, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about Best Film Ever?
So, Best Film Ever is basically our quest to find the best film ever. So we do a deep dive review of movies from all sorts of different genres. So as we're recording this week, we're doing The Notebook. But, you know, we've also done things like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or Joker, you know, sort of darker films. We've done action movies like The Hitman's Bodyguard or I forgot what it's called. The Die Hard with a Vengeance. Oh. And then we've done all sorts like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like Goodfellas. Like we just do a really big mix of genres across the podcast, and it depends on what we choose or what's coming up in current times and things. So it's very varied.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are four of us as well.
Right. And as I told Ian on his episode, in my opinion, you've already found the best film ever. You guys just didn't agree, and that is The Silence of the
Which
Lambs.
one was that?
Silence of the Lambs. That is my number one, easily.
Fair enough. Lots of people's favorite, I think. Just not ours.
And that's okay. That's the good thing. That's the good and bad thing about your show. You're never going to find the best film ever that everyone can agree on. That's the great thing about movies.
Oh yeah, but we need to we rate our movies from 1 to 10, so or 0 to 10 in some cases. Like I think we're trying to find the best balance across all four of us, or sometimes we have guests on, so across the five of us, as the case may be, to sort of get the average best film ever.
So that's okay, sure. Those words go together. Average best film ever. I like it. As of right now, what would you say is your number one? Do you know? Like offhand, do you know what it is?
Oh, well, I can say this because this will come out after our recording. I really, really love The Notebook, which we're recording today. That is probably my number one best film ever. However, something I also very, very much love is Bridget Jones's Diary.
That's right. Hey, perfect segue, because that is what we were talking about tonight. Bridget Jones's Diary.
She has the grace of a goddess, the heart of a saint.
Thanks, Chubby.
And a mind.
I could be wrong. What do you think?
All her own.
Do you know where the toilets are?
This spring, see the world through the thighs of Bridget Jones.
Oh, me, enormous pat.
From the makers of Notting Hill.
I'm king of the world!
Bridget Jones's Diary.
Okay, so when did you first see this?
I think I probably first saw this when I was about 12. So it was a while ago. I adore this film, and I have done since I very first saw it. And I've seen it quite a few times. It's kind of one of those ones I come back to fairly regularly across the years because I just think it's such a feel-good movie.
Okay, so I said it before we started recording, but I saw it for the first time last weekend. So I'm on the opposite side of you. But for anyone who hasn't seen it, why don't you give a brief synopsis of the film?
So it's loosely based on Pride and Prejudice. So it's sort of a modern day Pride and Prejudice. Bridget is a 30-something-year-old spinster who's on the search for love. And she decides to do sort of a new year, new me approach, as lots of us do, and starts a diary. And then she meets Mark Darcy, who is this well-to-do barrister type, friend of the family, and she takes an instant disliking to him. And then she also meets Daniel Cleaver, who is this charming sleazeball played by Hugh Grant, and starts this romance with him. And we sort of end up with this love triangle between Bridget, Mark, and Daniel. And Bridget sort of learns what she really wants from a man, and has these amazing friends that help her along the way. And yeah, that's sort of what it's about, really.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what is it? Why is this one of your favorites? What do you love about it?
Well, I love the casting for a start. Hugh Grant is like, oh, I love Hugh Grant so much. And I also love Renee Zellweger a lot. But I think it's just really, really relatable, the film. And that's what I love about Bridget in particular so much. She's just a totally normal woman, and she has a normal job. She drinks, she smokes, and she talks way too much. She's a little bit overweight. She swears a lot as well, and she just has regular person problems. So it's not one of these films where you have the most obscene scenario you can possibly think of. Like it's very, very normal, but very, very funny. And I think it's just really easy to put yourself into her shoes and to get into the story. And it's just got so much warmth and humor, and I love it.
All right, so we're not going to go into too great a detail, but let's talk a little bit about the sequels. I can't remember. Is there one or two?
There are two currently.
Okay, because the baby and the
baby and the well, the holiday. But it's not called The Holiday. It's called Bridget Jones: The Edge of Reason.
Yeah, that's the one I can think of. All right, so what are your thoughts on those?
I really like them both. I think the first one is the strongest of the three, but they're both really enjoyable. So in the Edge of Reason, we get Bridget going off to Thailand, so we get lots of adventures over there. We've got relationship strife, so you've kind of got the relationship together, and then it breaks up, and there's all sorts of miscommunication and things that are very typical in relationships, so again, very relatable. The film as a whole is probably less relatable. There are a few things that happen to Bridget that are perhaps not so normal, and hopefully we haven't all gone through them. She ends up in a Thai prison. But yeah, still the character is very much relatable. And then in the third one, Bridget Jones's Baby, as the name might suggest, you follow Bridget, who is now pregnant, and there's another love triangle. So it has lots of ties into the first two. And then there's also talk of a fourth sequel, but I don't know if that's or a third sequel, I should say, a fourth film. I don't know if that one's going to happen. It's been mentioned a few times. I know that Renee Zellweger has said that she sort of would be happy to do one, and Sally Phillips, who plays Shazza, has done an interview as well that you can find online talking about it. So some of the cast are definitely interested in doing another one, but it's obviously been quite a while since the first. So
okay. Well, you kind of open this up to two ways I can do this. So one, if they do a fourth one, what would you like to see?
I think, well, you've got to go with the age of the actors as they currently are, haven't you? So, I mean, when Bridget Jones's Baby was made, Bridget is supposed to be, I think, about 40. There's a great joke about how she's classed as a geriatric mother, which you get the joys of being classed as if you're anywhere over, I think, 35. It's a bit ridiculous. So obviously, you know, by the time a sequel would come out, a fourth one, you'd be looking at her at least well into her 40s, if not sort of early 50s maybe. So perhaps looking at kind of like going through the menopause, or you know, the issues with her child growing up. Right. I don't know. It depends how soon they do it, really. But you probably can't get to teenage phase with the child, because that would be quite a long way in the future. But yeah, I think probably a menopausal Bridget would be lots of fun.
Okay. All right. So let's say those other two didn't exist and you had gotten your own sequel that you got to do back then. Do you have anything in mind you would have liked to have seen?
Oh, I don't know, because I'm so familiar with Bridget Jones: The Edge of Reason, and how they've done that. I mean, it's just kind of all part and parcel of the same thing for me, and I would really struggle to kind of do something different. I think perhaps something a little bit less wacky. As I said, the Thai prison thing is probably not the most relatable thing in the world. So perhaps I would have kept her a little bit more local. But I guess it adds in a different storyline, and uses Mark Darcy in a different way, really. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you've got to have these love triangles going on, and the miscommunication. That's kind of at the core of all all 3 films. So perhaps just some of that, but closer to home, really.
Okay. All right. So let's take the sequels out. Let's say they just decided to remake it now. Who do you think they would get to play? I mean, you got to get Bridget and you got to get Darcy. And I can't remember the other guy's name, Hugh Grant's role.
Daniel Cleaver.
Yes.
So, well, I found this really difficult because to me, the movie doesn't seem old because it's just part of me. And because Bridget Jones's Baby came out recently as well, the actors are all still really relevant to me. Like, they don't feel like they're old. So it's a bit of a tough one. But I had a little think. And the key, I have a few ideas for Bridget. Okay. But the key one for me is Jodie Comer, she's currently 28, so she needs to age up a little bit. So we'd have to give her another couple of years to play a 30-something at least. I don't know. Are you familiar with Jodie Comer?
I do not know that name.
So she's an up and coming star. She's the star of Killing Eve, which is this amazing thriller TV show.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Has crossed over, yeah. She's won loads of awards for that. But she's coming up in a movie called Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds that's going to be coming out this August. And then she's in another couple coming up later in the year as well. So yeah, basically she's an up and coming star, and she's going to be I think appearing on everyone's screens, big and small, coming up. There are a couple of Ridley Scott films that she's doing. So one's called The Last Duel, coming out in October, and then she's doing another Ridley Scott one called Kit Bag, where she's playing opposite Joaquin Phoenix, who I also love. So I think that's going to be fantastic. But Jodie Comer has got this amazing ability to portray all sorts of different characters, which she does within one character in Killing Eve. Is so impressive. She's incredible at accents. She comes from Liverpool, so she's got a very, very strong accent. I don't know if you're familiar with the Scouse accent, but it is intense. But she can flip that around to very RP, posh British. She can do Scottish. She can do all sorts of different European accents and American as well. So she's really, really talented. And she also has this ability to play, to kind of blend into the background or to stand out as well. So I think she would work really well as a Bridget Jones type. But also I thought Lily James, Gemma Arterton or Holly Granger would be some good options that I could see in the role. I've gone for British actresses, even though Renee Zellweger did an amazing job of putting on a British accent for the role. But obviously, if you've already got the accent to start with, then that's one challenge knocked off, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
And then for Mark Darcy, I thought Dan Stevens would be a good shout. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I am. I do know him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know Dan Stevens from when he was in Downton Abbey, another very, very British thing. But he's since been in Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
That's the Beast. Beautiful singing voice as well.
And he was in the show called, I think it's Legion. It's like an X-Men type show. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I think he's in Blithe Spirit as well, which is quite a new one. But yeah, and then for Daniel Cleaver, I just couldn't. I'm sorry. I love Hugh Grant so much. I don't tend to have celebrity crushes in particular at all. People talk about how they find celebrities attractive, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. But Hugh Grant is my man, and I can't possibly replace him. I know if you look at him now, he's really quite old. And he doesn't look the same at all, but in my head he is the beautiful young Hugh Grant with the floppy hair and the beautiful British accent, and I just cannot find anyone of appropriate age across Hollywood, or I looked at Americans as well, but yeah, British or American actors that could possibly do the role of Daniel Cleaver justice in my eyes. So I'm going to leave that one to you.
Oh, I wouldn't have a clue. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I wouldn't have a clue.
We can just keep Hugh Grant. It's fine. We'll pretend he's still young. Just immortalize him.
You know what? I could see him doing that too. So not out of the realm of possibility. All right. Here's what I want you to do. Maybe people don't like rom-coms or romantic movies at all. I want you to sell Bridget Jones' Diary to a person who's not going to seek this out and why they should watch it.
It depends where you are in your life and what's going on. But I think this is an excellent go-to movie if you're going through a breakup, if you're going through a hard time, or if you just want to laugh. There's a beautiful scene where Bridget sings All By Myself and does some sort of like air drums to it. And she's so relatable. She's eating like a tub of Ben and Jerry's wrapped up in a duvet in her living room, and it's just perfect. And everybody can relate to that at some stage in their life, whether or not it's now or it's been in the past. You will fall in love with Bridget Jones.
Okay, and I'll just add that there's a great fight scene to It's Raining Men that's worth watching for that. So there's that if that did sell you.
And I think it's the second one. If you get to the sequel, you get to see Mark Darcy with a wet white shirt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did not make it to the sequels.
Actually, I think Daniel Cleaver and Mark Darcy are both in a fountain with white shirts on.
Oh, there you go. Selling points right there.
You get the fight scene in both movies.
All right. I think that's going to wrap this one up. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and the podcast?
You can find Best Film Ever on all good streaming platforms. So we are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Spotify, and all sorts of other places. I think we've got 100 episodes out there now, with 70 something key episodes, and then we've got some bonus eps as well. So you can go and check us out. I don't know what our latest will be by the time this one airs, because it's a surprise every week, and we're actually in a little season of our own picks at the moment. So I have literally no idea what is coming up next by the time this airs, but you can have a look through our back catalogue. It's quite extensive now, and there is something from pretty much every genre. I think we've even got a horror one in there, so you can find what it is that you like, and you can see whether we also love or whether we rip apart your best film ever.
All right, and as always, you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram, available wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to come back next week as we wrap up the best month ever, and Georgia joins the show to talk about The Princess Bride and tell why that should be your next favorite movie. You guys take care. I'll talk to you next time.